Today, a video about building a computer for editing underwater video footage, so stick around. Hey guys, Joe here. And recently I decided to build a new computer for editing some underwater video for some projects I'm working on. So I decided to go ahead and build a new computer, and I figured I would share with you the parts I selected to build this computer to edit these projects and do other post-production tasks. And when I started with this, I did a lot of research. My intent was to use this computer to produce a lot of 1080 videos and some 4K as well. Most of these videos will be produced for internet distribution. I still wanted something that was pretty kick butt, but also didn't necessarily need to be over the top. And so I decided on this computer I just built, and I'll share with you the parts I used to build this computer. Now, disclaimer here, most of this video is going to be about the parts I selected and why I selected them. If you really want to learn how to put a computer together, there's plenty of other videos on the internet that show how to do that, and I'll link to some below. I like Paul's hardware myself. I did a lot of research. Again, my goal was to build a computer that could handle some 4K video editing and also produce 1080 videos all day long. And so this is what I decided on. Now, during my research, I kept coming back to a website called Puget Computers. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Puget, I think. They had a lot of information in regards to computers and computer part performance utilizing Adobe software, Adobe Premiere, Adobe After Effects, and they actually also offer computer builds and computers built specifically for Adobe software. And so I basically built a very similar computer that they have offered on their web pages now. In fact, I was going to consider having them build it for me just for time, but I decided for the education value, I wanted to go ahead and build it myself. Figured I'd be more comfortable with the computer longer term and knowing all the ins and outs. And I thought I might save a few bucks that way, but I learned at the end of the day that all the parts combined, and if you count your time worth anything, I really didn't save much money building this computer myself. So just a little disclaimer there. So I'll kind of name the parts in order that I got them in the order I kind of put them together in. So first things first, you obviously need a power supply to build a computer. And what I chose for this, the Supernova 850 Platinum Edition. And basically this is 850 watts, which is plenty for the computer I'm building, and it's a high quality power supply. And one of my biggest things when building a computer was reliability. I wanted to get parts that not necessarily provided the best performance, but the best, what I thought would be reliability, not crashing the computer and those kind of things. And so I tried to get those kind of components, and that's one of the reasons why I got this power supply. It's definitely not the cheapest, it's one of the higher end ones, but it's supposed to be very reliable, so that's why I got that. So second, the motherboard. And the motherboard obviously has to play nice with the other components, especially the decided on CPU processor, the computer processor. This is the Gig Designer. Anyway, lots of cool things about this for what I wanted to do. My goal was to have a functional computer. I don't care about bells and whistles and lights and all that. It's crazy how there's so many motherboards and computer accessories now that are designed to be flashy with lights and all that kind of stuff. And my goal with this was just to have a functional, reliable computer. So that stuff I don't care about. But what's really cool about this one is it has two M.2 slots for M.2 SSDs. And basically, it's advertised that you get the full bandwidth for both of those slots. And so that's pretty fantastic for video editing, in my opinion. I could use two of those slots without kind of compromising the speed abilities of the M.2 drives themselves. At least that's my understanding with this board. Now, a little note about this, when you do use the M.2 slots with this board, you do sacrifice some of your SATA connections on here, and that's explained in the manual. So just a little note there. That doesn't bother me because I'm going to primarily be using the M.2 drives. So next big one is a processor, and this is kind of funny. It's amazing, the packaging on all this stuff now. It's like crazy. So this is the, whatever this is the packaging for the processor. And I went with the i9-9900K, i9900K, I guess. And it comes in this like soccer ball thingy. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it, but I don't want to throw it away because it looks kind of cool. But anyway, I digress. The reason I chose this processor was it's an 8-core processor with a decent speed. It's not the most expensive processor, and it's definitely not the cheapest processor, but it seems like it's in a sweet spot for editing most 4K video. In addition to that, Puget systems, which I mentioned before, they actually say it's better performance-wise with Adobe than even more so than with the higher core processors that Adobe provides that are much more expensive. Anyway, next, the video card. I went with a Quadro P4000 card. Now, this card has 8 gigs of memory. There's plenty of GeForce cards in there that have more memory and might provide more performance in some ways. However, the Quadro cards are top-notch cards and very reliable. And this actually, I think, was the most expensive component of this build, but I wanted the reliability, and I just know the Quadro cards are great from my understanding. So not knowing all the nerdy stuff about how graphic cards work, I went with Quadro, the 4000, because I thought it'd be a reliable card and at the same time beefy enough to satisfy my performance needs. So the Quadro 4000. And next, for a working drive, this would be the drive that I would work all my projects off on. All my media files and those kind of things would be stored on this drive, and I'd actually work off this drive from, say, Adobe Premiere or Adobe After Effects. That's where the M.2 solid state drives come in handy. Now, there's a few flavors of this type of drive. This is the Samsung 970 Pro. It has probably some of the best performance, at least that's how it's marketed and what other people say on the internet, so I'm going on their word and what I've read. But you just gotta be careful when picking an M.2 because they do have different performances. Some of them are only SATA, which means you don't have the full capability of an NVMe M.2. And you gotta make sure that your motherboard and your processor can play nice with the drive. So in this case, this will be my primary working drive. It's just super fast. The processor and the motherboard allow kind of full access to this. So working off of this drive with my media files should really help with performance. So that's gonna be my main kind of media drive, if you will. This is a 500 gig SSD, another a quality SSD. And this will be primarily used just for the OS and some software loading. So I won't work too much off this drive. It'll mainly be Windows and some odds and ends. So I will load Windows on that, and I may go ahead and add another M.2 drive as well. So there we go. And then I wanted a big data drive, a big mechanical data drive. So I've got an 8 terabyte Western Digital red drive, and that's basically to store all my files when I'm not working with them. Having video files, you have lots of data, and I figured that's a good place to store those files. Again, a Western Digital 8 terabyte red. The last thing I got was the case. Well, I ended up getting a Fractal Design C case. What's nice about this box is it's still relatively compact. It's heavy though because it's been built. Now the bummer about this is the motherboard has a USB-C 3, USB 3C connection, and the motherboard does have access for a front panel attachment for that. This box does not have that. Maybe I can add something later. It does have the USB-C 3 on the back though, so I can get to it. So that's the only downside to that, but size-wise, it's pretty cool. I didn't mention yet the cooler, the processor cooler. Basically, I just got the one that Puget Systems recommended. It's just a big old fan and a big heatsink. You know, it had lots of good reviews, figured it'll work well. And then I got some, you know, higher end thermal paste, just why not? It wasn't that expensive. So that's it, guys. Those are the parts I selected and why I selected them. I hope you found this video helpful. I'll leave a link to everything down below if anybody's curious to take a look. And if you have any questions about the build and the performance, let me know. I'm going to be using the computer quite a bit here lately, and we'll see how it works out. Thanks so much. I'm Joe Kistel.